The United Federation of Planets didn't even exist, but the war had already begun. Long before Earth joined the stars, the Klingons were out there, spreading, testing, conquering. They didn't see diplomacy. They didn't see culture. They only saw strength or weakness. The Vulcans were first, two logic-driven powers that could never see eye to eye. The Andorians met them next and gave them a proper fight. Even the Tellarites, loud, proud, defiant, saw their trade ships shattered by Klingon disruptors. Then came Earth. Captain Jonathan Archer made contact under fire. No peace was offered, no quarter was given. Only challenge, only contempt. The Klingons saw early humanity as brash, reckless, and naive. And that may have been true, but it was also dangerous, because humans didn't back down. They reached out to allies, the Vulcans, the Andorians, even the Tellarites. And when those four worlds united, the Klingon Empire took notice. They didn't fear the Federation because it was powerful. They feared it because it had potential. Potential to resist, to last, to win. And so, even before the Federation raised its flag, Klingon blades were already drawn. The first war between the Federation and the Klingon Empire didn't last long, but it revealed everything about how they would fight for the next century. By 2267, tensions had reached their breaking point. The Cold War between the Federation and the Klingon Empire boiled over. Diplomacy failed, borders were violated, and open conflict began. This was the first true war between the two powers. Kind of. Stay tuned for that later. Fleets were mobilized, outposts were attacked, and Starfleet issued a general order: prepare for full-scale war. The Federation sent the USS Enterprise to secure the planet Organia, a minor world in contested space. The Klingons arrived after, and weren't interested in negotiation. Occupation began swiftly. Organia offered no resistance, and the Federation moved to reclaim it. But the real resistance didn't come from Starfleet. It came from the Organians themselves. They were not what they appeared to be. Beneath their calm, pastoral surface was an ancient, non-corporeal species. Powerful, post-physical, disinterested in violence. And when both sides stood poised for total destruction, they stopped it. The Organians froze weapons systems, paralyzed fleets, and spoke to both empires as equals, and as children. They would ultimately say, "We find your war disgusting." They imposed peace, not through negotiation, but through force. The result? The Organian Peace Treaty. A document neither side wanted, but both were bound to. The treaty ended the war, but it didn't resolve anything. The Klingons were humiliated, the Federation felt exposed, and the Organians? They vanished from the galactic stage, not to intervene again. At least not yet. But the memory remained. The War of 2267 was short, but it revealed a truth both empires would learn the hard way. Sometimes peace isn't earned, it's imposed. Not every battle is fought with disruptors. Sometimes, all it takes is a crate of grain, a fake diplomat, and one very, very judgmental tribble. In 2268, war was off the table, but that didn't mean peace had arrived. Under the terms of the Organian Treaty, the Federation and the Klingon Empire vied for influence through developmental rights. A soft war waged with policy, not phasers. One such battleground was Sherman's planet. Whichever side could best develop it would gain control. The Klingons used deception. The Federation used diplomacy. The Klingon plan was subtle, a covert operative surgically altered to appear human, posing as a Federation official. His name? Arn Darvin. His mission? sabotage the Federation's grain shipment, to ruin the colonization effort, and hand the planet to the Empire. It was nearly a perfect plan, until the Tribbles arrived. Tribbles hate Klingons, and one sniff of Darwin blew the entire operation wide open. The Federation exposed the plot. Sherman's planet remained under Federation jurisdiction, and Darwin became a footnote in the annals of failed Klingon espionage. But the real story was never about the Tribbles. It was about how the war continued, without weapons. Sabotage, infiltration, legal manipulation. The Klingons had adapted to the rules of the treaty and turned them into a weapon. It wouldn't be the last time. Sherman's planet never became a battlefield, but it proved that even peace can be manipulated. Some wars end in fire, others end because a star explodes, and an empire realizes it cannot survive another one. For decades, the Federation and Klingon Empire existed in cold hostility. Skirmishes, proxy wars, spying, and through it all, an unspoken truth. Neither side was ready to change. Until Praxis exploded. In 2293, the Klingon Empire's key energy moon was destroyed in a catastrophic accident. Environmental collapse on Kronos was imminent. Without outside aid, the Empire would fall. And so, for the first time in living memory, the Klingons asked for peace. Chancellor Gorkon, a reformer, offered something unprecedented: diplomacy. Not from weakness, but from vision. The Federation agreed, but not everyone supported it. Inside Starfleet and the High Council, a conspiracy formed to stop the peace. General Chang, Admiral Cartwright. Agents from both sides plotted the assassination of Gorkon, the derailment of the Khitomer Conference, and the preservation of the Old Order. They almost succeeded. Gorkon was killed, Kirk and McCoy were framed. Peace hung by a thread, but truth, it prevailed. Spock, Uhura, and the crew of the Enterprise uncovered the conspiracy, and at Khitomer, diplomacy triumphed over fear. The Khitomer Accords were signed, not as surrender, but as choice, to evolve. To the Federation, it was a triumph of values. To the Klingons, a painful compromise. To the galaxy, it was hope. The Accords would hold for almost a century, but even peace, once signed, must be defended. Praxis forced the Klingons to change. Khitomer gave the Federation a reason to believe in it. But the old warriors never truly left. They just waited for the next war. After Khitomer, the war ended, but only on paper. In the shadows of the peace accords, conflict never truly stopped. Through much of the 24th century, the border between the United Federation of Planets and the Klingon Empire remained unsettled. There was no declared war, but ships were lost. Colonies were contested, and trust remained scarce. The Organian peace treaty had kept the two sides apart for decades, but with the Khitomer Accords in 2293, the old rules were gone. The Klingon neutral zone was abolished. The Organians had vanished, and peace now depended on diplomacy and restraint. The Arcanus sector, Donatu 5, disputed regions would flare up, then settle. There were no battle declarations, just a pattern of small incursions and silent losses. The Klingons, proud and fractious, tested Starfleet's patience. Raids, honor missions, rogue houses flexing influence. The Federation responded in kind. Outposts were upgraded, patrols increased. Veteran ships like the USS Rutledge and the USS Tecumseh were reassigned for flashpoints. This wasn't open war, but it was quiet escalation. In this period, power was not shown through conquest, but through posture. Each border incident became a political test. Starfleet captains weighed every move. Klingon leaders counted every delay. And all the while, the peace held. Technically. The situation only grew worse as the Klingon High Council became more divided. Political rivalries, house feuds. Old wounds never healed, only papered over. And while Starfleet hoped for stability, others prepared for something else. New threats were emerging in the Quadrant. The Federation's optimism endured, but so did its blind spots. The border never erupted into war during this period, but every conflict carved a little deeper into the trust that kept peace alive. And when the reckoning came, the cost would be high. Not every Klingon war is fought with disruptors. Some are fought with names, with honor, and with betrayal. In 2367, the Klingon Empire entered a period of internal crisis, one that threatened to undo centuries of blood and tradition. It began with a single death. Chancellor K'mpec, the longest-serving Klingon leader in history, was assassinated. Quietly, cowardly, poisoned. And with his death, the old balance of power collapsed. Two successors emerged. Gowron, an outsider and reformer, viewed by some as weak, but by others as principled, and the House of Duras, a family tainted by dishonor, yet wielding influence, wealth, and political muscle. The conflict wasn't just about succession. It was about the soul of the Empire. The Duras family had once covered up a Romulan attack on Khitomer and framed Worf's family for the crime. The truth was known, but the lie was tolerated. Because to expose it would fracture the Empire. Now, with K'mpec gone, the lie came due. The Federation watched cautiously. A Duras victory would have placed a Romulan-aligned regime at the head of the Empire, a disaster for both galactic stability and the Federation-Klingon alliance. Gowron was the obvious choice, but Starfleet's hands were tied. Under the Prime Directive, they could not interfere in an internal Klingon matter, even when inaction could lead to collapse. Worf, now a Starfleet officer, was caught in the middle. Bound by duty, torn by heritage. He chose to support Gowron. Not because Gowron was perfect, but because he wasn't corrupt. Then came the attack. Gowron's flagship was ambushed by Duras forces. The Enterprise D was present. Armed, powered, watching. But it did not engage. Picard followed the law. No intervention. To many Klingons, it looked like cowardice. To Starfleet, it was diplomacy. To Worf, it was the cost of restraint. The Civil War began. Klingon against Klingon, sister against brother. Honor as a banner, power as the goal. But something darker moved beneath it all. Romulan involvement. Lursa and B'Etor, the Duras sisters, had made an alliance with the Romulan Star Empire, and coordinating their support was a familiar face. Sela, the daughter of Tasha Yar, who had been captured after traveling back in time through an alternate timeline. Sela was born in the Prime Universe, raised as a Romulan, and now deployed to destabilize the Federation's only major ally. Now, the conflict was no longer internal. The Federation took action. They didn't fire weapons, but they did lead a blockade. Cloaked, listening ships were deployed across the Klingon-Romulan border until Picard's command. No ships in, no support out. The Romulans tested the line. The Federation held it. There were moments where the peace nearly shattered, but the blockade worked. The Romulans were exposed. The Duras rebellion collapsed. Gowron stood, unchallenged. But victory came at a cost. Worf resigned from Starfleet to fight alongside his people. And when the war ended, he returned. Changed. The Empire survived. But its unity? That remained fractured. Gowron owed his position to the Federation. he would not forget that. Nor would his enemies. The Klingon Civil War ended with Gowron in power, but in truth, it began a new chapter of dependency, resentment, and quiet war. The Khitomer Accords were dead. The Alliance dismantled in a single declaration. In 2372, the Klingon Empire withdrew from peace with the Federation. Chancellor Gowron accused the new civilian government on Cardassia Prime of being infiltrated by the Dominion. Without warning, the Klingons invaded. They struck fast, seizing Cardassian worlds under the banner of preemptive defense. The Federation condemned the attack. Starfleet officers conducted testing and found no proof of changeling infiltration. But the truth wasn't so simple. The Founders had already learned how to bypass these tests, and one had infiltrated the highest levels of the Klingon High Command. General Martok, Gowron's military advisor, was a changeling. The Federation didn't know, but they could feel the war coming. When the Federation refused to support the invasion, and also did not give over the civilian government of the Cardassians, Gowron declared them weak, compromised. The Klingons launched an offensive into the Arcanus sector. They seized outposts, raided colonies, and pushed Starfleet into retreat. The Federation was caught off guard. And then came Deep Space Nine. Believing the Cardassian Datapa Council was under Federation protection, the Klingons attacked. But the station held. Upgraded defenses, a crew ready to fight. Sisko's preparation paid off. Federation and Bajoran forces fought side by side, and the Klingons were brought to a stalemate. But Gowron did not stop the war. The conflict continued with raids, convoy ambushes, and planetary skirmishes. Ships like the USS Rutledge and USS Tecumseh fought to hold the line. It was not a full war, but it was the prelude to one. Then came rules of engagement. Worf, now on the Defiant, was tried for firing on a cloaked vessel. The Klingons claimed it was civilian. It was a propaganda weapon, aimed to fracture Federation support. Worf was cleared, but Starfleet learned something. The war would not just be about ships. It would be about perception. Eventually, the deception unraveled. Starfleet officers were able to prove that Martok was a changeling. Gowron quietly ended the campaign. No treaty, no announcement, just necessity. Because the real war was coming. The War of 2372 was short, but it showed how fast trust dies. The Dominion hadn't just infiltrated the Klingons, they'd shattered the Federation's most important alliance, before the first shot had been fired.